Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining our CS live chats. We have some incredible leaders who've been in the field of customer success. So welcome to you all today. We have Molly Brutomesso from BounceX, Jonathan Bolton. I stuttered because I'm so used to calling you JB at BombBomb, and Jesse Goldman at Sprout Social. It's going to be a great chat today. And of course, we have Elizabeth Italiano with Winning by Design, who's going to be our inside world to the outside world, live tweeting and getting anyone's questions on YouTube or anywhere else. So thank you all for making some time in your crazy schedule today. While we kick things off, where I thought you could introduce yourself by sharing something creative you have done with your teams and with your customers to keep engagement up. So why don't we start with Molly? What's one thing you've done?
Great. So with our team, we've done a lot. We've done sort of the standard happy hours and that kind of thing, but we've taken it to the next level. When we have a new team member that starts, they have to do three things. They have to say what Netflix world they would like to live in, a hidden talent, and a favorite sports team, if any. So we've taken the hidden talent and we've actually asked people to done some happy hours where people actually have to demonstrate that live talent. So that's been really fun. From an external client facing side, obviously just have really kind of embraced the ability to be more human with them. And we've actually sort of built that into some decks and created a break in the middle of an executive business review where people can kind of go and get water or coffee or a drink depending on the time. And we've encouraged people to kind of bring in their dogs or their kids to introduce at that time so that you kind of really kind of take down those walls and don't have people feeling embarrassed to bring that in. So that's been fun, as well as bingo nights and wine tasting and trying to really kind of keep that socialness up despite the distance.
Those are some great ideas. I wrote a couple down. Jesse, how about you?
Yeah, there's been a number of really interesting things that I've participated in and we've initiated across the team. One that stands out, and I can't take credit for it, it's some of the members of my team in Seattle do regular happy hours, and there's always a theme. And I had the pleasure of joining one of them where the theme was we were showed some art, and then everyone on the Zoom had to basically do their best impression of the art. We did voting, there was a whole ladder. And not only was it a great opportunity to learn more about art and art history, but it's pretty hilarious to see what people could muster from around their homes to make a painting live.
That's really cool.
So that's been a lot of fun.
My artistic ability right here.
Amazing. So one of the things I had though is we didn't draw. We actually had to be the painting. So literally like find, stuffed animals and things like that and props. So some pretty interesting screenshots from that one.
All right. I expect you to share yours on the LinkedIn post recapping today. I expect you to share your picture.
Yeah, I think I lost it. I'll look it up. Let me see.
You lost it.
And then, I'd echo Molly's comment about the more humanizing element of customer interactions and even team interactions. We're spending a lot more time together listening, hearing more about what's happening in our lives at home. Even just seeing a window into people's settings, right, is in itself a new form of connection. But just hearing more about how people are feeling. I'm finding, customers, our team, we're just opening up in new ways. And, I'm finding that is, despite being virtual, a really interesting way to develop deeper connections. And yeah, we do happy hours. I found those to be really enjoyable as well. Try to do one every week. But yeah, that human connection and just sort of making time to talk is really refreshing in some respects.
I hear you. JB, I'm going to get to you in 1 minute. Jesse, I just want to dig into one thing, because you talked about being, getting to know people and really listening. There's making that connection by just listening. And then are there any new actions you've taken? So I think we're all doing a little bit more listening, being really understanding, how are you doing? Because circumstances aren't the same. And I love hearing, both of you talk about, invite your dogs, invite your kids to meetings. I think it's great to have an insight into that outside world. And we get to look at some incredible art right now from, Molly and JB, which is pretty cool. A window into some personalities. And although Molly, I know you're not at your own house, so not your art. I will mention that. But any actions you've taken to, once you hear some things, have you been able to do anything about it?
Definitely. That's a great question. So there are a few things I'd highlight. One is creating opportunities for customers to connect with each other, and enable more of that kind of dialogue on various scales. Actually, just yesterday, we had a huge event as a day-long Sprout Sessions digital, where there were a lot of different organizations sharing their experiences, thousands of people coming together to listen and learn. But also, over the past couple of months, we've also done smaller sessions, so topical webinars, really focused on key ways to leverage the platform, or the Sprout platform, or even outside of product, just leverage social to engage, to understand audiences and so on. So yes, there's a lot of listening happening. I'd say from an action perspective, we're finding that there's a lot of interest to focus in on how organizations can create value, and engage their audiences, at this time.
Yeah, that's really relevant to how, what Sprout offers your customers as well. So I'm sure that
Yeah, the how practical application has been where a lot of the actions have been focused.
great. JB, I know, being in the world of video, you have, this whole world. I mean, the transition probably is a little bit less stark because you're so used to being a little bit more human with your customers in general. That's what you do. But, anything you've done that's been really creative internally with your teams, or externally with your customers?
Yeah, so a couple of things that stand out. One is we have, we've been part of this movement we call Rehumanize, Rehumanizing Your Business. It was the name of our our user con, and we wrote a book called Rehumanize. And so we launched Operation Reimmunize in CS, and basically all we did was we took a hard look at the budget and freed up some incentive cash around some specific core competencies that we were really interested in recognizing right now: flexibility, innovation with execution. Right? Initially, like, everyone has ideas, but few people are executing. It's like, I don't need more ideas. I need some execution on this stuff right now. Hard work. I mean, our teams, our support teams are, we're seeing double really the volume, prior to the pandemic. And so it's requiring a lot on those groups as well. So we had some fun with it, and we themed it, and we, grabbed a bunch of, goofy Zoom backgrounds that made it look like we were doing the, the daily health briefing, and our CEO was there, and that sort of thing. So that's been cool. And then we do like almost like press bulletins where we date timestamp them in Slack, and we're, kind of handing out money and recognition throughout. So that's been a cool way to pull the team together. We've actually done some temp hiring, and have had some success with it, both on the support and the success side of the house, which has been really interesting. We weren't sure if we could do it at first. We didn't know how sustainable the volumes were going to be, but at the same time, we knew that there were probably people like we have some significant, well-known businesses here in Colorado Springs that had to lay people off. And I'm like, maybe we could help them, and they could help us, and we could find some way to like welcome them in for a part of the time. So that's been a really kind of a cool way, to connect. Obviously, we're not in the office anymore, so we're not buying lunches. So all of that money has gone to Springs Rescue Mission, Mary's Home, Care and Share, all of our snacks. The admin team went in and grabbed like all the office snacks and like got those distributed to the homeless as well. there've been some cool, and then we're connected with like some, an organization out in Africa. We were able to do some cool things for those folks as well, who are, obviously we're all very privileged just by nature of the fact that we're here. We're extremely, extremely privileged even to be on this call today. And so just finding ways for the business to be able to support, folks that are less fortunate, I think has been really, really powerful. From a business side, one of the things that's really interesting that our product team, is working on. We have a metric for team accounts called face-to-face time, and it's literally it's simple. We're by the way, we do business video messaging, right? So it's like asynchronous. So as opposed to this, which is live on Zoom. If you record a video and that video is consumed, we call that face-to-face time. So it's just a metric that shows you like this connection time that's happening. So one of the things that we've done from a customer standpoint is just reach out and show these organizations what their face-to-face time is looking like right now, and give them some visibility into these connections that are happening, these human connections that are happening that maybe they're not aware of, or they didn't have great visibility into. And so that's cool. We actually, one of our VP of strategic partnerships is like, what, with all the school stuff going on, we're like, why don't we give this to teachers? Because they're going to be scrambling to figure out how can I teach effectively. And so I think, I have not checked in the last couple of weeks, shame on me, but I think we have about 5,000 teachers around the world that are using that. They've created and served in the last 2 weeks, like 4 years worth of content just rolling straight to all these students, which
sounds is like you have like an amazing breadth of the different areas you've touched, and you've been able to use some of, the perspective and, just the privilege of being here and having a job and whatnot. I love how you've taken your snack budget and your lunch budget and reapplied it to people who are in need. That's pretty awesome. Thank you.
It's a simple thing. Yeah, it's a simple thing to do but it creates a sense of community for your organization and your team for sure. So yeah.
I want to shift gears for a minute. This is a tough topic, and I don't love to talk about things that are so hard and hard to take, but I think it's important. A lot of our clients have gone through, massive layoffs, because at the end of the day, we're seeing a drop in revenue. And I think to get ahead of it, we're trying, companies have tried to, have been forced to lay off a significant portion of the team to just make sure that they have an organization and have a company that is sustainable, for as long as we're being affected by this. So I know, Molly, you've had to weather through this. I'd love to hear how there's so much that goes on when a layoff like this happens, and we're doubled up by the fact that we're not together in the office, and and everything. I'd love to hear what you've done and how you've been able to sort of weather that storm.
Absolutely. And it is one of those subjects that's like, you kind of hate to talk about it, but then as a result, you've got very few resources available when you do have to go through it. And especially as a leader, it's really challenging. So, we've really tried to kind of lead with maximum empathy, both for, impacted employees as well as the employees that are there. And this sounds very trite, but be more vulnerable than we would normally be. So I think, this is the first time this generation has experienced a downturn of any kind, really, for most of my workforce, at least. And so talking them through times that you've been through it in the past, even though this is very different, and hearing kind of the Marriott CEO talk about Marriott being around even in the Great Depression and this still exceeding that, talking about those stories, but not trying to say, we know this is different and it's okay to have all of these feelings. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to have imposter syndrome, for staying, and really kind of like working through all of that. And it's been a time. At the same time, the amount of energy and the amount of excitement for kind of being part of the new ship and kind of sailing in that new direction has really kind of upped the gratefulness index. And really kind of helped us hone in on who we are as a team and take us to kind of our studs there. So my team is sick of me saying I'm a child of hippies, and so was sort of raised on Joni Mitchell's music and Both Sides Now, and I reference the lyrics a lot and talk about that a lot of trying to look at the good through the bad through this, and some of the things that will become kind of clearer and really bring us closer together.
That's a really great perspective, and I never knew that you were raised by hippies. That's like
that's a whole other story, Julie.
We won't go there. JB or Jesse, do you have any things to add to that? JB, I know you went through a series of layoffs, and somehow Jesse Sprout's been managed to weather to not even have to do that, you were mentioning, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, happy to jump in. Yeah, we haven't had to go through that at Sprout, and that really is, I think, a testament to a few factors. Just the way that the business has developed over the years with a very diverse customer base across segments, industries. The team's been very agile. It's an amazing culture. We've been able to adapt, and we're really thankful for that. For the team, also the customers. As we're seeing the rise in the demand and potential impact of social, right, at this time, to really engage audience, get the visibility that organizations need, and even enable some more creativity, right, as more of the conversations move online. One of the points Molly highlighted that really resonates with me, and I've seen it across our team, is that sense of gratitude that really resonates across the organization. I think it's been a catalyst to bringing people together and closer. And one thing I'd add to that I've aimed to encourage, and it's really, I guess, a testament to our culture as well, is people are receptive to opening up and being more vulnerable about how they're feeling. It's not easy to go through these massive shifts, right? 2 months ago, we're in the office and so on. Now everybody's at home and adjusting. We adjusted quickly, but the conversations continue, and we're encouraging environments where people can feel safe to open up and share, and ensure that everybody has that type of opportunity. Not easy because we're not together, but it's been a major area of focus. And will continue to be.
That's pretty amazing. When I started my career, I was working for an investment bank, a consulting company on Wall Street, and like we couldn't even say the word feelings, let alone talk about them. So it's a really, fast forward, to now, we're in such a different, different industries, but also a different time. That sort of leads me to my next question around, everyone here has been in the world of customer success for a long time. And Liz, I'd love you to weigh in on this also. I know you're sort of, trying to live tweet and everything, but at some point I'd love you to weigh in because you've had a long history in CS as well. What's different, from when you started to what customer success has become sort of now, and where, if you can even predict into the future, let's go a year from now, right? Where do you think it's going to go? What do you think we're going to see? What are some of those stark differences? So that's a big question. I'll give you a minute to think. I'll say something. I'll give you some time to think by giving one of my thoughts on it. So I think, we've come from a world where when I started in customer success at Eloqua, this big new thing around NPS came out, and the happiness score of your customers and how likely they were to refer. And that was the one metric, right? But now we have all these different tools and all this different technology at our fingertips to analyze and to get data around our customers, that one metric really isn't as relevant anymore. And there's so much more that we can track, and there's so much more impact to the business that is more relevant, that we can track around, renewal revenue, expansion revenue, that really is better indication, in my opinion, of what success means for the customer success team. So that's a big difference I've noticed. And I think we're going to continue to see that over the next, number of years, where the emphasis in the world of customer success is going to be less on happiness and more on real business operational revenue metrics. So that's mine. Who wants to, JB, can I put you in the hot seat?
Yeah, you bet. I'll give it a stab. I think one thing that's really interesting about this environment is that it is our customers are ripe for a conversation about value and even evaluation of their products and their tool stacks, and how they're prioritizing those things. This is a great time for us to get very, very clear on what value it is that we offer to our customers, and then being willing to proactively bring that conversation to bear. So it can be easier to set impact reviews or executive business reviews now than it has been historically. Hey, Julie, I think given these unprecedented circumstances, it might be wise for us to take a look at this contract in your relationship with BombBomb. What do you think? That is real value for our customers. And then to sit down and get very clear then on, are we right-sized? Or do we have the right solution? Do we clearly, are we on the same page with what the problem is? Are there new problems that have been exacerbated by this pandemic that we have, products or solutions to solve? Have those products, have those problems been reframed or changed? I think is a really, really interesting part of the conversation right now, and a great place for us to add value. And then what I would say to those of us who are really working on, the account management and the retention side of the house is, this is a good time to to be so sure of your value. Remember that you have an obligation to bring that to bear for the success or failure of the customers that you're serving. If you really believe in what you have, now is a great time to get very clear on that and use that as fuel to step into that conversation. Do you believe that what you offer and the problem, the pain that you solve for your customer is so valuable that it's worth you challenging that customer in this difficult time to say, let's take a look at this because I know this is so important to you. Is this the right decision to make? Is there a different direction that maybe we can and should go? Take good care of these customers in this season, and they will never forget it. They will never forget it.
Totally. I mean, I love the line, you have an obligation to bring that value to bear. So that's such a great line. And, I know of a company who proactively went out to their customers who are in a field that's very affected and offered discounts, offered credits, and their retention is actually significantly higher, both on logos and revenue, than they expected, because they were proactive about offering, potential discounts or pauses on contracts. And their customers are so appreciative of that they're sticking with them. Jesse, how about, go ahead.
I was going to say that's one thing that we're doing as well. And just to echo on some of those pieces that JB was saying, right? You've got this sort of unprecedented access to the C-suite, because the C-suite has to get involved in every single decision. And one of those, I always talk about CS as we need to be the trusted advisors, right? And kind of get beyond this sort of SaaS robot feeling. And my initial time in the business, I started off in success at Salesforce and then Sprinkler, and we were pretty advanced. It was pretty operationally driven, right? It was very much, would start kind of blinking if the client health score, you looked at adoption and you looked at these 42 different metrics, right? But I feel like this time it's really circling both the science and the art is coming back, and that ability to really be that trusted advisor and get into conversations beyond this about what's really going on in their business, right? We're in e-com. We're in, we've got, a ton of clients with brick and mortar stores that are closed right now. And it is leading to very interesting conversations around their business on all levels that, if you had asked me 3 months ago, we would have been begging to get into. At the same time, it's a very sensitive time, right? So I think that access to the C-suite, though, will continue, because I think once they've gotten involved and they understand the ROI, they understand, at least for us, more of the e-com side of the business, right? And the importance that can play. And it's really fast forwarded behaviors in that space for us as well. So shopping online, converting on those channels. So I think that involvement will continue to be there, but then it's on us as CS to really be able to rise to that occasion and be able to hold those conversations and be thought leaders there.
That's huge. We're not getting blocked. So now it's our time to maintain that conversation because we've gotten that access. So it's ours to lose.
Right, exactly.
Great perspective. I love that. Jesse, how about you?
I'd love to build on that. Both what Molly and JB are saying around the connection and value. Yeah, we have lots of data that various scores and so on. So to your point earlier, Julie, I think we've come a long way since a happiness type of score, but it's still there, right? And we're still leveraging the data in different ways to figure out how we engage and how do we optimize what we're doing. One of the risks, though, of all this data is that we lose that connection or that human element. And now more than ever, this, I see that at the forefront. If I'm to look ahead a year, maybe beyond, the opportunity is to figure out how we can deliver that type of experience and create those types of connections at high scale. Right. One of the issues, when you look at all the data, you can get caught in that, and the customer gets reduced down to a score or a number, and that's just not going to cut it.
I agree. I definitely, we do a lot of tech, a lot of companies are like, we have our SMB segment. We can't, have the same ratios of CSM to number of customers. We need a tech touch solution, but you still don't want to lose that human element. So, video is a huge way to get over that. But I think there's going to be some interesting technology that emerges that helps in that direction as well.
How do you bring the product teams, the success teams, marketing? I mean, we like to say everybody's in success, right? Or a customer first mindset. And I think organizations are going to continue being pushed in that direction.
Definitely. All right. We're almost up at time, but Liz, how about you?
Yeah, so when I think back to my first role in customer success at Salesforce 11 years ago, the things that come to mind is that customer success was very much more reactive than it is today. And it was, kind of triaging around support and professional services and sales. And the role of customer success was really, still being defined. And therefore it was hard to measure. And so there was a lot of these, kind of softer metrics around happiness and NPS and things like that. And not to say that those aren't valued, but now, fast forward to today, there's more of, customer success is more about driving impact towards successful product adoption, which then, in turn means renewals and driving revenue and expansion growth. And in order to be able to deliver on those for our business, and that's really what a lot of customer success organizations are starting to more and more, be measured on. We have to make sure that we're delivering value to our customers, because if the customer loves me as a customer success manager, that's great. But unless, I'm actually helping to deliver value as a customer success manager, then we're not going to secure that renewal. We're not going to drive that impact that the customers really need in order to be able to, fulfill their goals. So, it's kind of that shift towards more of that proactive, strategic, and, really having more defined metrics is the biggest shift that I've seen in the last 11 years. We're held accountable to value and impact.
Yeah, absolutely. They can love you, but what happens if you leave? And also that's not going to stand up to a CFO who's questioning that line item. We are up for time, and I'm sure every single person has a meeting right after. So we talked a little bit about gratitude. I have to say, I'm incredibly grateful for you spending your time with us today. Thank you for sharing such thoughtful insights. I learned so much. I hope you did too. And I look forward to speaking with you all again soon. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Julie. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Bye.
Everyone.